Welcome to the Love and Meaning podcast. I'm your host, Christelle Robinson Tiedemann. You guys could see my face today. There are tears streaming down them, and I'm going to try my best to do this in the state that I am in because I felt called to. And not that there's anything wrong with crying, it's just that sniffle sound is probably the worst thing ever to do in front of a microphone. So for that reason only, I like to compose myself, but the energy is passing through me really strongly. So I'm surrendering to it for whatever reason. I know that I'm being called to. There is a reason, whatever it is. And why am I so moved? I just breathing. I'm becoming more and more aware that something has been pulling me in this direction. It's been leading me for some time now. And these are not sad tears. These are I think this is the only way that my physical body is able to contain source energy. I think that source energy, universal energy, God energy, which is what I feel extremely aware of in this moment, is a lot bigger than our physical vessel can contain. So it needs to release in some way to be able to keep the feet on the ground. And I think the leaking through my eyes is how I'm able to stay on the ground in this moment. Because despite my voice, despite my eyes, I can tell you that spiritually there's a very strong grounding, while my human does feel quite shaky. But something has been leading me for some time now, because there isn't really much of a logical path. It's just been one calling after another that I've been following. I have been learning to trust my intuition. My inner work journey has very much been about learning to connect with my intuition. My interest in human design, pretty much, but delving into human design, and when you hear anyone in human design say, live by design, it is truly a way of saying learning to intuit what you're being called to. Having the compass be internal rather than external, someone, society, conditioning, whatever it is, but rather the path that you go on be the one that you chose, your soul chose for you before your consciousness even hit. And I didn't realize how kind of far back this pulling began, or my ability to hear, feel, see the nudges. But it's really all coming together. And I was in a class earlier today where, I guess the best way to say it is that the teaching was source energy directly speaking through this teacher's voice to me. I know it was myself, my soul, no, it was source talking to me directly through her, and the message was fully received. And so I want to amend something. I say, one of the things that I say is, so I law of attraction has played a very large role in my spiritual awakening, my personal growth. It's been the most, beautiful grounding system. It taught me universal law. And what I say is that we don't get what we want in life, we get what we believe. But I want to amend that. I no longer think it's that we get what we believe, but rather it is that we don't get what we want, we get what we know. And there is a difference between believing and knowing. I'm currently in a money consciousness course. It's not the course that I was just referring to this morning, but started a money consciousness course this week. One thing I confidently thought was that I would never talk about money on this podcast. I never thought that would be something that I would discuss because I don't really like talking about money. So that seemed pretty obvious. But that in and of itself, that I don't even like talking about money, is why I am talking about money today, because there is so much that is coming through in terms of clarity to me in this money consciousness course that indicated to me the level of asleepness, unawareness, how deep our conditioning is in certain areas. And what became abundantly, pun intended, clear to me was that when it comes to money, I've always been the other woman. I've always been the side chick. I can't actually remember a time in my life, in my, adult life, or at least independent age of money, autonomy, an age of autonomy around finances, where my money isn't spoken for, meaning I always owe more than I have. Like, since, the first biggest mistake, like my first day on campus in undergrad, I got a credit card. Like, they literally sell them on campus to catch the young, naive ones like me. And that was the beginning of that. I have since grown enough to no longer fall into the retail debt trap, but there's other types of debt. And I've had series of different ones. One's intentional, one's less intentional. So this includes, my education and stuff. I'm still paying my student loans, but I'm not saying this is not a debt bashing. I'm just saying that it's become clear to me. I've become aware of the fact that my relationship with money is so much so that I don't feel like it's something that I have a hold on that I'm very much like the side chick. And that is the emotional relationship that I have to money. And so in this emotional relationship that I have with money, I've been awoken to a question that I've kind of always had, because if I want to parallel this to relationships, since I already started the analogy, I always kind of had a question of, you know, the SZAs out there, the singer, like if anybody knows the song The Weeknd, like I've always had the question of like, why do you not want to be the one? Like how do you sit so comfortably in that position and just continuously move to always being or longing for somebody else's man, you know? Like get your own. Or you don't want your own? Like what's going on there? And I got my answer through this deep dive into my relationship with money, where I realized that when something is so deep seated in you that it is a knowing, it's not even a belief, there is no question. There's nothing to really discuss because it's just a universal fact in your consciousness that this is the role that you play. This is what you get. Then you just operate within that system. It's the same way that who says, I believe the sun will come up tomorrow? We don't say that. We say, I know the sun will come up tomorrow. How come? I mean, like, do we know for sure? Technically, like, not really. But we have such reliance on the truth of this thing that it is a knowing. I don't spend time thinking about knowings. I don't spend time thinking about knowings because they just are. They're just a mode that you operate within. It's just the presetting just operates. The program just runs. In the other areas of inner work in my life, I realized that they were much more concepts of beliefs, and it allowed for me to mold them, shift them, change them. And I'm not saying that it was simple. It wasn't. It took introspection, work, but I can't say that it was ever this hard. And I think the reason is because there's a part of me that's like continuously has to shake my head and say, like, wake up. Like, it's almost like really being in between, in the matrix, in and out of the matrix. When something is a knowing, it becomes transparent. It's like looking at the image and the image keeps like disappearing. It's like a chameleon. The knowings are like, it's like a chameleon. I can't see it all. I can't see it. It's hard to work with something you can't see. But all the pre-work that I've done, it's the emotional maturity work, the emotional intelligence work is what has prepared me, what has set the stage for me to step into what I'm stepping into now. Because what I realize is that the thing that's going to get me through this, because I will be uncovering these knowings that I have been operating under. And what is going to carry me through it is my newer found ability to sit with my emotions, all of them, whatever they are, to no longer run from discomfort. And what is happening when I'm hitting the questioning of the knowing, because that's what it is. It's like when the shift comes, when it's time for the shift to come, when the change is upon you, when you're being presented with a door, a portal to walk through in your life. It comes with the presentation of alternate experiences to yours in your face. Okay? Stick with me here if this is getting confusing. The thing with money is that we don't really see inside of people's money relationships, do we? We just see the knowings that they have. We don't really, and then you don't question the knowings, it's a knowing, it's just a fact. You don't see the relationship. So for example, like when you see, and I guess this is why it's been so hidden from me for so long, but if we go back to using the analogy of a romantic relationship, you get to see people's relationships out on a date. Yeah, people take their relationships out, and I can observe you. If I go to dinner with you and your partner, I can observe you and your partner in that dynamic and be exposed to, if I've never had an experience, let's say this is a really healthy dynamic and I've never had that experience, my only experience is this is an experience, then at first it will be like, well, they're weird, or I won't even really register it, or most likely I won't have it. Most likely how it will start is I won't have any of examples around me of relationships like that. Then I'll start to expand my social sphere, and some of those relationships will sink in. Maybe I'll see them on TV, but because it's on TV, I'm like, that's not real. And then maybe my social sphere will expand and I'll start to see relationships in real life. And my first thought will be like, well, they're a bunch of fakers. Probably beats her when we got home. And I don't mean to, I'm not saying that as just an aside. That is a very domestic violence, is a very serious thing, but I'm being serious. Like, this is how we dismiss things, right? She probably blah, blah, blah. They probably, who knows? We don't know what they do. There will be something that I'll justify in my head that will explain why this is so unreal. And as the universe, as my calling, if I have an inner calling that part of my soul curriculum is to build a truly healthy and deeply nourishing relationship, I will continue to be exposed until at some point I question, why the heck, why am I not like that? Why am I never experienced that? And you can fill in the blanks for, like how that goes. You go down, 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 down continuously, more exposure until eventually maybe you'll find yourself like in a course and start really learning relationship dynamics and blah, blah, blah. So with money, it's the same thing, except I've never seen money out on a date. I don't have, people don't just open up and tell you their ins and outs. And when it comes to money, I feel like there's even more of a social sphere of similarity around you. You tend to be around people who are in the similar circumstances to you. But in my entering of the spiritual realm, of the personal development realm into the coaching world and being exposed in business, I started to see a whole lot of different realities other than mine. And there is a reason the universe brought me on this exact pathway to be here now, to learn all the things I learned first, to do the relationship thing first. That was the first easiest to access one, there wasn't a super amount of trauma there. Was able to shift that, but there was a deeper learning even beyond what I learned in order to manifest, a healthy relationship. There was a deeper learning that sank in there that I just wasn't conscious to. And it was the understanding of what I'm explaining to you now. That was the example. And then the next layer, the next layer was the emotional intelligence and maturity, the being able to hold myself through emotions, to be able to accept that I have full range of emotions, to be able to open my mind to truly understand the range how humanity works, to gain true compassion, to see that we are a result of our conditioning, to see other human beings as just as capable as me, to be able to hold myself while I see, you know, someone's inner child presented in front of me, but, you know, coming out of using adult words and in their adult body, and then recognize my own inner child, or my own younger archetype playing through me. Having that work, you know, nervous system work, sitting in discomfort and understanding that I can do that for myself, and the power of breath, the power of, yeah, nervous system regulation, that came next, because all of it was preparing me to come here. And day one of this money consciousness course, through a series of questions with some excellent coaching from the teacher. If you guys are interested in this, you feel free to DM me. I'm not going to say out loud. Everyone has, you know, their own, what works for them. But if you are interested in knowing what course I'm taking, you're always welcome to message me. But the first class, for me to realize with some really helpful redirection that I play this role of, I don't know, this clueless girl role when it comes to money. There's nothing very clueless about me. I'm very good at solving problems. In every other area of my life, I know how to put on my fix-it hat and get to the root of the issue. And I don't do that with this. And I realize that I don't do that with money, because if I did, then I wouldn't be able to say, I don't know. So how much subconsciously I've been choosing to do nothing. And furthermore, to realize how deep the relationship goes. Basically, in emotional intelligence work, you have the motherhood wound and the fatherhood wound. I have mommy and daddy money issues. I have mommy and daddy money issues, where I literally play the role of my parents with myself with money. So dad's role was to say nothing. So one of my archetypes with money is complete ignorance, like the just not paying attention. And then the other archetype is the mom one, which was to verbalize and say all the time that, you know, we don't have money, and that we, you know, things are tough. But the action was to like shop, you know, go on little shopping sprees, spend freely, no such thing as budgeting, two very non-congruent ways of acting and speaking. And so there was a deep unconscious implantation that, one, there's this kind of non-existent kind of relationship with it. And then two, there was this, well, you can spend it and you can do whatever you want, as long as it's accompanied by stressing out and saying, you know, that things are tight. So as long as you have stress around your finances, you're allowed to spend whatever you want. That's how that works. And I manifested these exact relationships with money in my life. Exact relationships with money in my life. Another thing that I saw play out was there was always this idea that, and so this is where the other woman, this is where the side chick role came in. So there's people with money. We're not those people though, right? So we are not those people with money. There are other people who have tons of money. And so those are like rich people, right? Or wealthy people. And we're not that. That's a thing that happens to other people. But what we are is we have class. So that's a very, you know, Caribbean thing. It's not just the Caribbean. I know in Asia, class it plays a huge role. I come from ancestry where class plays a huge role. So it doesn't matter how much money you have as long as you have class. And one of the sub lessons that I learned there was like, you look a certain way and you act a certain way. You don't actually have to have money, but you sure as hell basically act like it. So like if you go to class, it's, if you think about class, like we kind of like compared to almost royalty. And it's like, you're definitely not that, but like you can carry yourself in that way, you know? So what really matters is how you present. So I did that, you know, I presented in all the ways. I'm very classy. I'm very well poised. I dress really nicely. I looked as if I'm wealthy, but I'm not. And it never occurred to me that that wasn't the way that you do it, because I was rewarded with the belief that, but I have class and that's what's important. So to constantly have, you know, owe more money than you actually have, but you look a certain way, that's okay. So money was always someone else's. It was always almost borrowed. It was something that we got to engage in kind of secondhand. But the most important thing is how you present. And so fast forward to my early 20s and spending tons of money on credit cards to look a certain way, consider myself a very classy person and a very respectable person, and, you know, always be below, like never be in a surplus of money, but that was fine. Complete repeat of the patterns. And I just couldn't understand when I got to a place of like actually caring about finances now, because when I was a kid, I didn't see the ins and outs of that. I only replicated what I was shown. What I wasn't shown was them actually dealing with stuff. What I wasn't shown was them, like, you know, the actual account issues or how much my parents sacrificed for us. They didn't tell us any of that stuff, right? So all I knew was that we were fine. So to me, it wasn't a big deal. Yeah, you go shopping, you say that you don't have a lot of money, but then you go shopping anyways and everything works out fine. Hello, that's what we did, right? It's okay. As long as you, like, you know, you don't really discuss finances, the daddy part, and then the mom part, as long as, you know, like you make sure that you play that you're like, well, I'm not, you know, I'm not rich, but like do whatever you want with the money though. That's fine. Played all those things out, but having no idea of what the behind the scenes was, you know, where they did a lot of sacrificing. There was um a lot of the money struggles that they had, they didn't show. I didn't know those discomforts. So I repeated what I saw that my child brain implanted, and then got to the place where I'm the adult and now I actually have the money troubles. And it was like, but and then I don't understand why I'm having the money troubles, because you're not supposed to, because what am I doing wrong? I can't understand what I'm doing wrong. And then a continuation of repeating the pattern, repeating the patterns, repeating the patterns, getting the same results. I even have greater salaries and I'd still somehow not even out. So many different raises, and I had the exact same problem, just in different amounts. So now I'm actually questioning, asking the question, doing the contemplation, the deep contemplation, and I can tell you a lot of tears came up. And it's not the same tears that I started out this recording with. Those are more like tears of joy and awe in the process. Knowing that I'm in the exact place that I'm supposed to be, and being so grateful for learning to listen to my intuition to get me to this place, because this is my next portal. This is my next portal. I'm going to have the money consciousness that allows me to fulfill my destiny. And I have decided that I will share with you guys along that path. I don't know who was meant to hear this today, but this is just my raw and real experience. And it was hard. This first class, as I was saying, was emotionally extremely challenging, and a lot came up and out. There's clearly a lot to release. And it's because I'm addressing knowings, questioning something I didn't even question to be true, and now excavating them. They're so powerful. They had been creating a reality even after I identified that I had an issue and I don't like the way that my finances are situated, and still continuously manifesting the same thing. We all do this in different areas of our life. And the ones that are really powerfully repeating is because they're knowings. They're just facts to you, not to other people. So I'm going to learn new knowings. I'm vowing here and out loud, and you guys can keep me accountable, that I will no longer have the relationship with money where I'm just the side chick. I know that it's going to be uncomfortable because everything in me is operating under the programming. I have coding, I am encoded that that is just what it is. But now that I see it, there's a question mark. The table is wobbly now. It's not a knowing yet, but it's not a knowing yet that I am wifey material when it comes to money. But I'm now aware, it's in my sights, that that's a possibility. And that is very much the first step. So I'm in this first stage. And I will keep sharing with you all along the way. But I am awakened. I'm going to follow pretty much the same path that I did with any other area of my inner work. But there is the coding is sneakier. The coding is really high tech. Very sophisticated is the word. I think the coding is quite sophisticated in this area. So yeah, that was vulnerable for me to share. So thank you for being on this journey with me. Like I said, all feelings are welcome here, including my own. And I want for you to see that this isn't a comfortable path. It's by far the most rewarding, though. But that doesn't equal comfortable. Comfortable is simply familiar. I am happy to be uncomfortable in order to be great. I'll see you in the next one.